The sun was beating down hard on Spintex Road in Accra, baking the hood of Leonard Abeck's Range Rover until it looked like it might catch fire. Inside, the AC had given up the fight long ago, and Leonard's patience wasn't far behind. He gripped the wheel tighter, muttering under his breath, and then, just like that, the dashboard lit up with a red warning. The engine coughed twice and died. Perfect. Just perfect. He pulled over, popped the gear into park, and stepped out into the dry heat. The smell of roasted plantain drifted from a nearby vendor while Leonard stared at the tangled mess of wires and metal under the hood, not understanding a damn thing. His shirt clung to his back, sweat stinging his eyes, when his phone buzzed. Mr. Mensah, his business partner, was on the other end, voice urgent. Investors were already waiting to sign papers. Another buzz, his sister Vanessa, reminding him he'd promised to visit their dad at the hospital. He brushed her off too. Minutes turned into an hour, then another. Taxis slowing to stare before moving on, boys laughing as they called out, "Big man, your car's spoiled." Leonard felt every tick of his watch, every degree of heat on his skin. That's when he heard footsteps, slow, deliberate. A young woman with a small faded suitcase appeared, clothes simple but clean, braids neat down her back. She looked tired, but her eyes were sharp. "Is everything okay, sir?" "Car trouble," she asked, voice soft but steady. Leonard almost waved her off, until something in her tone, neither pity nor mockery, made him pause. She offered to help. He looked her over, smirking. "You? Fix my car." He laughed, but she didn't flinch. "Suit yourself," she said, warning him he'd be stuck for miles, and leaning in just enough to make it sound like a secret, that wild animals sometimes pass this road after dark. "Wild animals? This is Accra," he scoffed. But she just shrugged. "When they're hungry, they'll eat you." Her name was Mirabelle, and despite his teasing, he let her try. She tightened a battery cable, cleared a clogged fuel line, tapped a relay with a small wrench she carried in her bag. The engine came to life, sputtered, then purred smooth. He offered her cash, crisp bills. She refused. "I fix cars, Mr. Abeck. I don't sell my dignity." He offered her a ride. She declined, suitcase in hand, disappearing into the crowd without a glance back. Leonard drove away, but couldn't shake her from his mind. The way she stood her ground, the way she walked away like she owed him nothing. Days later, he spotted her again. Same confident stride, same backpack. Car trouble brought her to his driveway this time, and his gateman, Kwesi, didn't miss the chance to tease him. Mirabelle fixed the car in minutes. Kwesi accused Leonard of making up the breakdown just to see her, which wasn't entirely wrong. This time, Leonard blurted it out. "I like you. Can I take you to dinner?" She didn't say yes. Didn't say no. "Call me in 2 days." 2 days later, she walked into a quiet, elegant restaurant in a red dress that turned every head. Over dinner, she set the record straight. She wasn't homeless. She ran her own roadside mechanic business, always moving with her tools. People judged what they saw, but she was self-employed, independent, proud. Leonard realized she wasn't just fixing cars. She'd been fixing his view of the world. Weeks blurred into something like a dream. She met his friends, his colleagues, even his sister Luna. She belonged everywhere without trying. Leonard, the man who had once cared about appearances above all, found himself bragging. "This is my girlfriend, Mirabelle, the best mechanic in the city." The night of the gala, the city's elite gathered under glittering chandeliers. Leonard held her hand in the center of the room, voice steady but eyes shining. "You fixed more than my car, Mira. You fixed me." He slipped a simple, perfect ring onto her finger. She said yes, tears in her eyes. The crowd erupted. From a dusty roadside to the grandest ballroom in the city, their story had unfolded like it was always meant to. Yet as the applause faded and they stood together under the chandeliers, there was still a question in the air, one the audience could almost feel but not answer. Because happy endings, in the real world, aren't always the end. What would you have done in Leonard's place? Would you have stopped for her that first day, or walked away? The weeks after the gala felt like they'd been dipped in gold, warm, easy, almost too good to be real. Leonard and Mirabelle slipped into a rhythm that surprised them both. They'd wake up in his sleek East Legan house, sunlight spilling across the white curtains. Mirabelle wandering into the kitchen in one of his shirts to make coffee while he leaned against the counter pretending not to be staring at her. In the evenings, she'd come back from the garage, hair tied up, hands still smelling faintly of engine oil, and he'd insist on taking her somewhere that had nothing to do with work. Rooftop dinners, art galleries, even a jazz club tucked in a dimly lit alley where the owner knew him by name. But life has a way of testing anything that starts to look too perfect. The first crack came in the form of a phone call, not from a client, not from family, but from someone Leonard hadn't heard from in years. A man named Kojo, an old friend who now ran one of the biggest auto import businesses in the city. His voice was friendly enough, but his words carried an edge. "Lenny, I've been hearing things about you and that roadside mechanic girl." Words moving fast. Leonard laughed it off at first. People always talked, but that night, at a private networking dinner, he caught the way two investors glanced at Mirabelle as she excused herself to take a call. One leaned over, voice low. "She's beautiful, but a mechanic?" The way they said it, like it was a flaw, made something twist in his gut. Mirabelle wasn't blind to it either. She'd felt the shift in the air before, back when she was still just fixing cars under the sun. But now the whispers were in glass-walled boardrooms and expensive restaurants, the judgment wrapped in polite smiles. One evening, she found herself in Leonard's study, staring at the framed degrees on his wall. "Do you ever wish I was different?" she asked quietly. Leonard looked up from his laptop, caught off guard. "Different how?" "You know, less grease under my nails. More, whatever they expect at those dinners you take me to." He crossed the room, cupped her face in his hands. "Mira, if I wanted whatever they expect, I'd already have it. I want you." Still, the doubt lingered. And then came the twist no one saw coming. Luna, Leonard's sister, showed up at Mirabelle's garage one afternoon. She didn't announce herself, didn't send a driver, just walked in wearing jeans and sneakers like she'd been coming there her whole life. "I needed to see for myself," she said, watching Mirabelle tighten a bolt on a battered Toyota. The conversation started cautious, but by the time Luna left, she was laughing, oil smudge on her cheek. It felt like they'd weathered the storm. Until one late night, as rain pounded against the windows, Leonard's phone lit up with a message from an unknown number. It was a photo of Mirabelle, standing too close to another man in front of her garage, smiling at something he was saying. No caption, no explanation. Leonard stared at it for a long time, the sound of rain and his own heartbeat filling the room. When Mirabelle came over the next evening, dripping from the rain, he didn't greet her with his usual warmth. "Who's he asked, holding up the phone. Her eyes flicked to the screen, then back to him, and for the first time since they'd met, she didn't answer right away. Outside, the rain kept falling, drowning the city in silver light. Inside, the silence between them felt heavier than any broken-down engine they'd ever stood over.